Anytime God can take a mistake that we made in our life and give us the opportunity to use that to change people's lives, like that's the gospel living and breathing. It was in 11th grade when I was 17 years old. I was making decisions that were taking me in a bad direction because in the past I had found my identity in athletics and I lost that. So when I stopped playing sports, I kind of like lost that group of friends, and I was doing everything I could to build new friend groups, and that was partly making all of these people happy and doing whatever it was that I thought was gonna get me acceptance and love from these people. And when a friend came to me and said, "Can you get me a gun?" I said yes to that. I didn't think it was gonna turn out the way it did, but it did. And I provided the weapon that ended up causing the death of a person, and because of that, I received a 20-year sentence in prison. The hardest thing when you're that age, 17 years old, and you've just been told you're gonna be in prison longer than you've been alive, I didn't even know how to process it. Because to me, at that point, my life was over. It was my first week in the county jail is when I was invited by a group of guys to go to church, and I didn't want to go. And the only reason I went is because they told me they were gonna be giving out free donuts. When the volunteer had preached on the love of God, the forgiveness of God, the freedom in Christ, these were all things that I had never heard before growing up. I had never heard the gospel like that before, and there was something in me that said, I want to be a part of that. So at the end, when he gave an altar call and said, "Who wants to give their heart to the Lord?" I raised my hand and said, "Yep, I do." And even though I given my heart to the Lord and prayed, "God, forgive me for this," I don't know if in my heart of hearts I believed really that I was forgiven. You know, everything I felt all that, like all that guilt and shame and everything weighed on me. I had given my heart to the Lord, but I was not walking in faith. And when I was in prison, and I was in for like 8 years, I saw these guys around me who had been in prison a lot longer than I had been, and they were gonna get out way after I had gotten out. But they were living with hope, and they were living with peace, they were living with joy. And I said, I want that. Like, I want what they have. And so I started to talk to them and realize the change in their life was the faith in Jesus they had that actually caused them to live their life in a different way. And so I just started to learn from them and started to live out my faith. And when I opened myself up to the light of Christ, that's when true freedom came. After some years of doing that, I realized that now there were younger guys who were in the position I was in years ago who were now following me. I was able to get blessed with opportunities in prison to be able to preach, to be able to teach, to be able to lead worship, to be able to start churches that started as simple couple guys reading a Bible to 10, 12 guys coming every Sunday. Like, these things, God just birthed those out of me being faithful every single day to just waking up, answering the call, picking up the cross, following after Jesus. I've experienced spiritual freedom in my life while I was in prison, and now being released, it's like my physical state finally matches what my spiritual state has been like that whole time. I met the love of my life. I'm getting married in May. I'm working here at Westwood Church. I get to reconnect with my family, reconnect with friends, and build all of these new relationships that, you know, God has put these incredible people into my life. So whatever opportunity that comes my way here now on these side of the walls, whether it's to speak to high school kids on a Wednesday night, to whether it's eventually being able to go back into prisons again and share my story in there with those guys, whatever that opportunity is, I'm just available to whatever that call God has on my life.